Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I trust that you can hear me. Just before I begin this evening's training session, just want to make sure that you are hearing me. So just put in the chat there and confirm that you are hearing me well.
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so again, good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon as well. Thank you for your awesome response to our vertical farming webinar. I am Jennifer Hyland, the Vice President of Strategic Communications and Stakeholder Engagement with Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition, the NGO arm of the Caribbean Israel Group. I just want to tell you a little bit about who we are at the Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition. As I said, it's the NGO arm of the Caribbean Israel Group, established in 2017 by His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas to facilitate humanitarian relief, activism, philanthropy, empowerment conferences, training, and scholarships. And we provide, as I stated, humanitarian support. We lobby, we donate, we empower, and we train. And our purpose here at the Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition is to partner with Israeli expertise, technology, and investment to bring sustainable development for the Caribbean. And our vision, we want to see the region of the Caribbean accelerated in its economic development through the integration of Israeli expertise, technology, and investment. And we do that by empowering governments and the private sector to partner with Israeli expertise, technology, and investment to bring sustainable development for the Caribbean. So our overall goal here at the CLLC is to drive and facilitate the use of groundbreaking Israeli innovation, expertise, and technology into the Caribbean to facilitate Israeli investment, to boost economic growth, and to create jobs within the Caribbean. So at the end of the presentation, we will open up for your questions to the presenters, and we'll aim to answer as many of those questions as possible. Also, if you wish to benefit from the business opportunity provided by Vertical Field, we're Dr. Thomas and our Vice President at our Israeli office, Mayan Navon, will also introduce the opportunity and speak more about the Vertical Field. And you can make contact with us with our Business Development Director, Deidre Leacock at dleacock@caribbeanisraelcoalition.org. Don't worry, I'm going to put that email address in the chat for your convenience so that you can record that information at your convenience. At this time, I want to introduce Dr. Thomas, who will then introduce our presenters. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Andre Thomas, who will introduce our presenters. Over to you, Dr. Thomas.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer.
Okay, just check your volume for us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Yes, okay. Okay, can you hear me well?
We'll let you know when we can hear you.
Okay, sure. Okay, yes, can you hear me well? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Are we hearing Dr. Thomas?
Yes, we are.
Yes, okay.
Great.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our vertical farming webinar. It's our focus to bring the best of Israeli agrotech to the regions of the Caribbean. We can forecast based on global trends that there will be massive food supply disruptions, and it's extremely important that this region is actually ready for it. There also has been a massive effect on unemployment and job opportunities within the region of the Caribbean, and we believe that agriculture is a sector that can grow and can help meet the gap. We have been working in this space for quite a while. And if you look at the figures, example, if you look at, say, Barbados, we're looking at one of the figures in Barbados, and there was a year that Barbados imported $7 million worth of carrots. It also imported $14 million worth of sweet peppers. Now, could you imagine that a local company could produce that? Not even talking about dealing with the cruise ship industry, because the cruise ships prefer to buy local, but they cannot buy local because, why can't they? Because farmers not using smart technology cannot provide the consistency, cannot provide the quantities, cannot provide the quality that is needed for that industry. However, with smart technology, you can. And I believe that this is game changing. It's game changing because at the price point at which it comes, between $150,000 and $200,000, it's really game changing. So I believe that this particular webinar is going to inform people, and it's going to empower people to step into this area of agriculture where they can produce and have offtake agreements with restaurants and supermarkets, and help lower the foreign exchange bill of the country. Now, we know that within the Caribbean, food imports are about a $25 billion bill, and there is a lot of opportunity in there. It's really the biggest opportunity within the Caribbean, but it has to be done with quality. What we import from Miami is usually grade C. What can be produced from the Caribbean using Israeli technology would be grade A or B. So number one, the quality will be higher, and number two, the foreign exchange will not be leaving. So I'm very excited about this. I have with me Mayan Navon. She is one of the founders of CILC. I mean, without her, we won't have CILC. We work together to really birth this organization, and I'm blessed to call her my friend. And Mayan, it's yours, and she is a woman of notable achievement, and we're really happy to have her be a friend of the Caribbean and to run our office in Israel. So Mayan, it's over to you, and she will introduce the Vice President of Vertical Farming.
Okay, so first of all, hello to all of our members. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see you right now since we are in a webinar, and I'm really looking forward for the time that we'll be able to sit down again together like the times before COVID-19. As always, I think that we picked you up really the right, one of the most advanced company that's suitable for the Caribbeans for numbers of aspects. First of all, some of the islands are still suffering from hurricanes and just the catastrophic weather. The idea to grow food inside of container really lowered the risk in terms of losing all the food that they're growing at that time. To climate control it 100% of the time. I will give a friend a guide about technology and everything. And I know from previous conversation you had a lot of questions and discussions about how you can bring this to your country. After this conversation today, me and Andre will be able to give you some more information about local grow in terms of financing and everything. But having said that, I know that we have come a long way together already in terms of bringing food security to the region. And this step is another step to go back to make one of those countries will be able to provide themselves in any times of for the future, of course, to come. Guy, I will give the directions right to you to continue and speak a bit wonderful project and this great product. And I'm sure that all of you will be able to see the amazing technology that we are able to bring to the region. So please, Guy, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Maya, and thank you all of you, Dr. Andre. Thank you for having me today. In the next 15-20 minutes, I'm going to take you through the vertical farming in general and vertical field and what we do in vertical field in all the aspect of farming and landscaping. I'm going to share a presentation if I can. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. So I'm going to try to take you through what is vertical farming in general and what we are doing in vertical feed, as I mentioned. So I guess we're all aware about the trends and the impact of the global warming, the greenhouse gases, the reduction of available land and water, the toxic chemicals, the fact that more and more people are coming to live in the city, and the fact that the food chain is not that efficient in terms of waste and insecurity. All of that are bringing us in the agriculture space to find solution of how to grow and secure and provide food in different places over Earth. And definitely we are trying to find a solution based on the gaps and the difficulties we have currently, and that without taking yet into consideration that the population is expected to be grown to around 10 billion people in 2050, which is, you know, although it's 30 years, it's around the corner. Under that trends and impacts, the vertical farming was started to emerge a couple of years ago. I mean, vertical farming is something, or indoor farming is something that we know for many, many years, but the push to bring technology from different industries and to create a high value growth in the vertical farming, that's something that happens only in the 5-6 years ago. And that happens because of this trend and because of the fact that it's clear that part of the food need to be grown in place where people, the population are consuming the food, and the food chain and the supply chain need to be significantly shortened in a way that it supply better, healthier food, and of course lowering the damage to earth and to the environment parameters. All in all, the vertical farming is an industry of $3.5 to $4 billion a year, growing 25-30% year over year. And we see tens of different companies in different places try to bring different types of solution. And I'll try to address our solution and where we are different and explain the differences between us and them. So you'll have a wider picture or broader picture on the vertical farming solution in general. So all in all, vertical field was established in 2006 as an ag-tech company that developed vertical growing platform. For many years, we have focusing on horticulture, vertical landscaping, whether it's green wall, green roofs, trying to bring nature into the city, into the building as an integral and legitimate component, and growing that in a vertical way, not to catch too much space. And of course, bringing benefit that it's not just design, but also a reduction of temperature, reduction of environmental aspects and human health parameters. And gradually over the last few years, we have taken the know-how into vertical farming, and we have developed our solution that I'll address in this presentation. We have won a few awards over the years and certified for many, many certification in different categories. We are working with big corporates, with supermarket chain, restaurant chains, hotel, hospital, almost any customers that any corporate that is a big food consumption factor, that's a potential customer for us. We truly believe that we see ourselves as an agents of change. We definitely needs to see our city built and established in different ways, and part of integrated nature and the benefit of nature and food and the growing of food. That's something that anyone that design a city needs to take into consideration. So all in all, we have developed the vertical farm inside the container. We have thought of integrating that into a container because we did thought that the container has few advantages. A, it's portable. can move it from one side to the others. It's relatively cheap. It has an environmental impact because there is many used containers that can be reused and transferred into better use or a secondary use as a farming. And of course, the entire concept of putting a small unit inside a crowded place like a city, that's also something that was considered as a parameter for us. The farm is plug and play to water and electricity. It has subsystem of climate controls, lighting, advanced lighting systems. It basically monitor and manage the entire parameters for plant, pH, EC, moisture, temperature, and many CO2 and many other parameters. At the end, under the vision to provide the optimal condition of the plant every day. I mean, the best day a plant can get outside, it get it inside the container every day. And by that, basically, we are gaining 365 days a year growing cycles. It's around 60, 70 cycles a year with no dependency whatsoever on climate. And basically, we gain a higher level of health of the produce, whether it's the level of vitamins, the level of nutrition, and other stuff. And maybe two other elements that I'd like to address here is that the entire system is managed by an IoT system that we have provided in order to facilitate the farming side of the farm in a very easy way. We believe that in the city it will be impossible or very difficult to find farmers or agronomists in every spot we would like to position the farm. Thus, we have designed and developed this farm to be managed for an unskilled person, meaning you don't have to be an agronomist or a farmer to manage the farm. After a short training and with the technology said in the farmers, almost everyone can manage the farm, and that's the entire idea. The second element of that, which basically relates one to the other, is that the fact that most of the other competitors or vertical farming companies were focusing to bring the best lighting system, the best air conditioning system, and they're using, I would say, a standard hydroponic system. We were focusing on our developing on bringing the best growing platform because we believe that essentially the farm is a growing platform much before all the others, technologies. And we have developed a growing platform based on geophonic, which is a soil base. We believe there are advantages to grow plant or on soil, but one is this is the natural way of a plant that's grow. Secondly, using soil make all the facilitation of the farm, the operation of the farm very easy to use, versus hydroponic, which compose of more complicated and complex system, tank mix, and other elements that you need to have certain level of skills to manage that and to monitor. It's less forgiveness to mistake. And again, bear in mind that that's part of our vision, that this is going to be in the city managed by an unskilled person. And secondly, the quality of the crops is much better than any other types of growing. And definitely on the market side, there is advantage of marketed with the soil, without the soil, and by that length the shelf life of the crop. So we are trying to look from seed all the way to shelf and making sure that we bring the best produce to the supermarket. And that's something that differentiates us in vertical field versus most of the other competitors in the vertical farming. The soil and the growing platform and the IoT makes the entire experience of managing the farm easier, cheaper, and much more focused. In terms of the COVID-19, that's, I would say, not need to be introduced. We see a few impacts on COVID in 2020. One was from the retail side. We have, by the way, few operations in few countries. So we saw that retailers are trying to make sure that their supply are secured, but because of lack of traffic and lack of transportation, there was lack of ability to provide constant supply, and many of the shelves will remain empty, versus farmers on the other side that had to destroy their produce because they were not able to ship. And by the fact that you have a farm outside of your store, you can secure at least part of your products coming in and out with no dependency on transportation. From the other side, we see that COVID impact on the consumer mindset. in terms of I would say the awareness of the fresh, the level of cleanness of the produce. Consumers start asking themselves, how many hands touch my food? How clean is the food? And in fact, again, that you can see the farm, and the only person, which is the urban farmer, that the only person that deal with the produce from A to Z give you a different level of comfort regarding the level of sterilization of the food, and definitely that strength the confidence of the consumer to buy in a specific place. And that's something that existed before, but COVID in that sense accelerated this mindset and levels of awareness. In terms of the supply chain, I guess it could be shorter or longer, depending on the country, but definitely from the farmers to the retail, there are many stops, whether it's a distribution broker, the warehousing, the middleman in between. And definitely what we are trying to aim is to shortcut or eliminate all that stages in between. By that, providing, as I said, healthier and better quality of crops, long length, the shelf life of the produce, reduce the waste, whether it's on the farming side or on the retail side, and at the end of the day, reduce the environmental damage of all that transportation that's going on because of the need to move food from one place to the other. So we were talking about yield, by the way. We're talking about yield. A yield in a 40-feet container, 40 feet is around 30 square meter. In a 30 square meter, we're able to grow a yield of approximately a third of an acre in open field, significantly yield in one container. Just imagine yourself how much land we can free for other usages in using this type of technology in the specific crops that we are talking. In terms of quality, again, the fact that we're not using any type of pesticides because it's a closed environment agriculture, and because of the fact that it's being harvested just before consumption, give you a higher level of quality definitely. The supply in terms of no dependency on weather condition can give you a comfort of consistent supply and quality. And in terms of cost and scalability, that's something that we're able to compete almost in each region and each country because of avoiding all the extra costs of transportation, the pesticide, the machinery involved in the traditional agriculture, and other elements. At this point, we are growing mainly herbs, leafy greens, and lettuce. You can see samples of these crops in the slide. But again, our vision is to bring as maximum as fresh fruit and vegetables to be grown in the urban ecosystem in economic way and bringing the entire benefit as I mentioned. So definitely in our pipeline, we have farms of mushroom that is planned to be launched somewhere in 2021. You see some of the mushroom, but also champignon and other types are also included in this type. And the entire families of berries, which strawberry will be the first crops in berries families that is going to be launched somewhere towards the end of 2021. And we definitely have more ideas and more crops in our R&D pipeline. I mentioned the IoT system. It's our proprietary system, manage all the parameters, manage inventory. It's indicated how many inventory from each crop need to be orders, what portion need to be harvested, what is the time shelf life, and other parameters that it's important. Again, from the nursery all the way to the shelf in order to make sure that we are controlling the entire system and we are lowering significantly waste in the entire system. That is also, so that also another angle of that, and for sure aiming that the farm will be managed by an unskilled person. In general, all of that come into the way that the customer, the consumer feel it, smell it, taste it. The entire shopping experience is changing. The customers that are coming to the supermarket that we work on feel that this is a real farm that they can pick right from the farm, although they cannot come in but they find the same experience inside the store. They see the farm outside, so it supported the story of something that is grown locally, and the consumer can see from outside to the inside the farmers working, harvesting, planting, whatever he's doing, and they can buy it inside the store with the entire that experience. And definitely we're seeing consumers that are repeating consumers that are coming and buying and understanding and feeling the different level of quality in terms of the taste, the aroma, and other elements. And definitely we have started measuring the impacts of having such a farm in a supermarket, not just by the numbers of lettuce that are being sold, but also in the numbers of, in the amount of traffic that are being coming to the brand. We definitely see more and more consumers coming to the supermarket to work with. Some of them were not buying in the specific brand, and they come because of the fact that they heard about these new farms that was placed in the supermarket. Bear in mind that if we're talking about the supermarkets, we definitely understand that the people are choosing there, or the major parameters is because of fresh. And because milk you can buy anywhere, and shampoo you can buy anywhere, and stuff that are fresh, that's something that trigger consumer and people to choose the relevant, of course, price, but on top of that, the freshness, and definitely that's level of uniqueness and innovation into the fruit and vegetable department, get their attention and increase the traffic to the supermarkets because of the entire concept that we are bringing. So shopping experience is something that is super, super important. So all in all, just to summarize, because that's the last slide, we truly believe that there is no reason why more and more crops will be grown where they are being consumed, to avoid all the, I would say, traffic, pollution, and cost involved in that, and providing something that is fresh. We truly understand that COVID also accelerated this, I would say, understanding that there is a direct connection between healthy food and diseases and the immune system of us, and people are more and more understanding that, and more looking for a solution that will provide them fresh and healthy food. So that was my presentation. I thank you for listening, and of course, open to any type of question you're having. So thank you again.
Can Jenny Highland would actually facilitate the questions? And we'll answer. You're
Jenny is still on mute.
Thank you. Well, feel free to utilize our Q&A section or even in the chat, and I would definitely pose those questions to Guy and also Mayan and Dr. Thomas. Or if there's any part of the presentation that you would want to see again or have Guy enhance on or speak to, you can also put that question in the chat section. I don't see any questions at the moment, so if there's any particular issue, Guy, you want to re-emphasize, go ahead, or Dr. Thomas can speak as well if he has anything to add before those questions come in. I see one coming in, but Dr. Thomas, go ahead.
Yes, the other thing that we could do, if you could state your name, then we may be able to find you in the chat. Now we have about 65 people. So if we can find you, we'll find you. My team will find you. But we need to know your name so that we can find where you are in the on the pages. Our goal today is to bring you as much information as possible, and so that you can be informed about this new technology, which is game changing. I believe there's certain islands, particularly, this will be really game changing actually for them. Okay, so thank you. So over to you, okay, Jenny.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Thomas. First question came in from Kevin Holder. He's asking, are the systems set up to produce multiple crops in the same container?
Okay.
Good question. Thank you, Kevin, for your question. The answer is yes. Under the leafy green herbs and lettuce families, we are able to grow a few types of crops altogether. Usually from commercial side, we're growing a mix of 6 to 8 different crops on the same farm. So quantity will be significant and there will be a synergy between the different crops. So the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. Margaritin, I believe, sorry if I'm not getting your name correctly.
And if you state what country you're from.
Yes, yes. Please let us know which island country you are tuning in from and your name. And yes, Margaritin Wade, she wants to know, can this technology be used in another location besides a container?
Well, that's a good question, but it's a complicated answer. The answer is yes and no. So initially, yes, conceptually, yes, this technology can be integrated into different warehouses or size. But the other answer is no, because that has to be under development. It's not just a straightforward installation from one side to the other because of different impacts, different elements that impacts the ability to grow in the ecosystem. So we are thinking about having different types of units in different sizes, which not necessarily be a container, but that's under a longer terms of development.
Great, thank you, Guy. We have a question from Dawn Lovell. Dawn Lovell, I believe that's Dawn Lovell from Barbados, and she's asking, is this available to the ordinary homeowner once they have the space to facilitate holding the container?
So at this point, it's more available on the commercial scale, mainly to retail, food company, restaurant, not to the personal usage at this point. Maybe in later stage, we'll definitely address the, I would say, the personal usage from home usage, but at this point, it's mainly commercial scale.
Okay.
Okay, if I could add to that, I think what she was also saying, she wanted to know if an ordinary homeowner could use this commercially in their backyard as long as they had the space.
Ah, got you. Now I better understood the question, and the answer is yes.
Okay, great. Vishnu from Trinidad, he's asking, are there special seeds to use in the container?
No, we're using always local seed, local soil. The entire issue is not to bring seed and soil from other spaces to avoid all kind of regulation and local adoption. We're using local seed and soil, and that's the answer.
Okay, thank you. Arona Forbes, she says, I'm happy to see that the innovation are scalable for the Caribbean region, which is small. She's from BVI. Arona Forbes is from the British Virgin Islands, and she's asking, would the system provide the seeds and all the resources, or do you have to provide the container and I believe the resources she's asking?
So basically the farm need consumable, which is the seed and the soil. And so either the local customers buy it or we are able to provide it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's an option. That means it can be bought and they can provide. Okay, excellent.
Correct.
Great, thank you. Terrence John Garcia from Curacao, he's asking about the range of container prices. I mean, a lot of persons obviously we're gonna address that question at the end, but specifically to do with the technology, Kevin is asking, can you go through the daily operations for the farm user? Does the system control nutrient levels, etc.?
Yes, so the basically system control all the inputs and all the output of the farm, the nutrition, the fertilization, the water, of course, electricity, everything that comes in is being controlled, monitors, and being managed on the entrance to the farms and during the cycle of the growing.
Okay, and in terms of the cost, I'll have Mayan Navon would answer that.
You're on mute, Maya.
Sorry, thank you for letting me. Regarding the cost, Andre, and I think we already discussed about it, we need to know exactly which country, and we have to sit down together about the terms of the cost, because if we are building here one container or we're building 6 containers, the cost can be different. This is one thing. And the second thing is each one of the island, the shipment prices and adjustment will be different. So I suggest that each one of you that want a specific quotation will approach us, but we believe that we'll be able to target the price between $150,000 to $200,000. But again, it depends if you're training, if you're asking for someone to come over, to fly in, to be a specific time over there. So it's really consider a lot of things. So this is the average that we are talking about. But again, we can talk specifically to each one of the project and see the amount of the containers. Maybe a guy will be able to sit down with us and see how we can collaborate. If we have a number of lots of containers, and maybe we can get a special price for the CLC team members.
Thank you very much, Mayan, for addressing that question.
You're welcome.
Dawn Lovell, she is asking, if someone already has a small smart farm using aquaponics, can this be configured to do this as well?
So no, unfortunately, no. Aquaponic is a completely different system and methodology, which cannot be integrated or work with the geophonic system. Unfortunately, no, it's 2 different concepts and methods of growing, which has to work separately. Each of them are a closed system and cannot be interrupt or integrate with others.
Okay, thank you. Julian Daniel, he's asking, does the soil have to be replenished after specific cycles?
Yes, of course. That's part of the consumable that I was talking about. That's definitely soil need to be changed in order to A, make sure that the soil is fresh, and B, reduce the level of or eliminate the chance of having soil disease.
Okay. Question from Harlan Vanderpool. He is asking, traditionally, the cost of utilities in the Caribbean region is a major overhead for businesses. How energy efficient is the vertical field system, for example, average month electricity usage in kilowatt?
So at this point, we're using normal electricity, but in the future, we definitely have plans to integrate solar panels for the farms to reduce the electricity consumption, or to eliminate. At this point, the big farm consumes 170 kilowatt a day, but we have definitely plans to integrate smart and green electricity solution.
Okay. And Joshua Edwards, he's asking, you mentioned about how much crop can be produced in containers. How long will it take to harvest? Let me just read that again. You mentioned about how much crop can be produced in containers. How long will it take to harvest?
So it's a good question. The average days of from scratch to harvest is around 21 days, depends on the crop, sometimes 22, 23. Just to give you an example of the comparable, if we take in lettuce, for example, in open field, lettuce is harvested after 55 to 70 days, depends on the climates and the place. In greenhouses, it usually harvests after 35 to 45 days. And we have harvested after 21 days. And again, we were able to do that because of making the condition optimals and shorten the growing cycle of each one of the crops.
Okay. I'm not sure whether this question, Dr. Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think this is outstanding in terms of the advantages of the actual technology. I think this is, one of the defining issues of the technology, the fact that you can shorten the time and therefore for the farmer it's more profitable. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, great.
Great. I'm not sure whether this question, because I'm monitoring both the chat and the Q&A, and I believe you would have touched on this question, Mayan, but for Cheryl Ellis from Barbados asked what are the startup costs and resource requirements, and I believe you would have addressed that question, correct?
I can say that again, yeah. I can share that. We're looking at between $150,000 and $200,000, but there are many variables. That depends on where in the Caribbean it has to be shipped. It depends on how many containers you want. So there are a number of variables. And obviously for those associated with a CILC, and you actually want a number of containers, we would work out, we'll sit down and see what type of special pricing we can get.
Okay. Julian, he is asking, how can a person, I'm not sure this is, let me ask it, and I may be misunderstanding the question. How can a person obtain a container to do gardening in the backyard, gaming? I'm not sure if that is the...
It's gardening, yes.
Gardening, yes.
So the steps, Maya, do you want to answer that? What are the steps? If a person wanted to, I mean, what would be the steps?
In terms how they can establish, in terms, I'm not sure I understand the question
so if
again.
a person is interested, what's the sequence of steps? If a person
Well, first
wanted
of
to
all,
purchase, yes.
To purchase one container.
Yes, so then what's the sequence of steps? Who do they get in contact with? What's the next step after that? What's the next step? So that's the whole cycle from where, from
So
the time yes.
I'll suggest that maybe we will give Deidre's email so she can, yes. You can send her an email exactly to which country you are asking to seek for the containers and the quantity, of course. And then we can send you a questionnaire of what exactly you're looking for in terms of guidance and instructions, and also in terms of, we have to understand what is available in their country, because we know some of the countries we don't have all the facilitate things like the soil that we need, the exact soil. We have to make sure with the small survey if they have everything that needed. If not, we can include it in the package and send it together with the container from Israel. And following that, we can send them an official proposal. After that, all they need to make sure to just make sure that they will have enough space for 20 feet or 40 feet container, electricity in, and a link to water, and that's it. That's all it's needed.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Right, Guy? Do I miss something, Guy? Do we have something else that we need to make sure that?
100%.
Good.
Okay, so we have so the questions are pouring in. Vishnu is asking if there's a 20-foot container for smaller areas.
Yes, there is. There's two sizes: the 20 feet and the 40 feet.
Okay, great. And Kevin Holder, he's asking, using lettuce as an example, what yield can be expected on a weekly basis from one 40-foot container?
So we're talking about for let's say a monthly yield of a farm is around 8,000–9,000 head of lettuce a month.
Okay, great, thank you. And Dan,
Guy, could you compare that with open field?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned that during the presentation. Basically, that's comparable to a third of an acre of an open field.
Wow.
So it saves a lot of place and land in that sense.
great. Dan Lee Phillips, he's asking, does the system allow for the growing of crops not normally grown in the Caribbean, such as strawberries? And he's from Antigua.
So as long as it's under the leafy green family, we are able to adopt local special crops. For any other types like strawberry, that's something that need to be developed. There's different types of agronomical processes that need to be happen, and that's something that is still under development, as I mentioned.
Okay, so if I could just go over the question again. So I guess what Danny Phillips is asking is that once it's within the crops that you can grow, it can be grown anywhere in the world, irrespective of the country. Am I right?
Yes,
okay.
Correct.
So as long as it can be grown in Israel, then it can be grown. So when they actually add the strawberry family, the berry family, it can be grown in the Caribbean, it can be grown anywhere. So as long as it's in the container, it can be grown. Yeah.
Correct, okay. Correct. That's part of being agnostic to the temperature and the climate outside.
Okay, absolutely.
Great. We have a question again from Julian. Is the water used in a recycling system? What is the general water consumption of a fully filled 40-foot container or lettuce from seedling to full maturity?
So we're using inputs around 300 liters a day, and the output is like 10% out of it, less than 10% out of it.
Thank you, Guy. And Sheldon Jones from Barbados, if you already have containers, can the technology be built into the available containers? If so, would that reduce the initial setup costs, no longer having to ship the containers?
Well, theoretically, yes, because we are using empty containers, of course. It will be, I would say, depends on the scale up. We're talking about few singles containers will be more difficult because of the hurdles of bringing all the subsystem and assembly that locally. But if we're talking about high scale, that's definitely something that we are able to do. And by the way, we are doing that, for example, in the US. Our farms in the US are assembly in the US themselves. So theoretically, yes, depends on the quantity and the scale.
Okay, so in essence, if it's for one container, it doesn't make sense. If you're doing 20 containers, what would be the threshold?
You know, it's a general question. I'm not sure. It depends on the country and the set of costs. Sometimes it makes sense in 20 containers. Sometimes it's more. I think that once we see a relevant example, we definitely can address and give a number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Margot Fountain from the Bahamas, she's saying, although it is a great and necessary approach, have you received much, if any, negative feedback from any consumers in terms of crops being grown in their natural environment compared to the containerized garden approach?
It's a good question. I think it relates to the fear of many people that see crops being grown in different way, in different concept, right? Because when you talk with people, they're using to see crops growing in an open field or in greenhouses, and looking that growing in a container have all kind of doubts, I guess. So I have to say that we are supported by national laboratories that checks the quality and the level of health of the crops, making sure that at the end of the day the crops has higher level of nutrition and vitamin. We're getting positive feedback from consumer in terms of the taste and the aroma. So no, we haven't received any negative feedback. The only negative feedback that we got was a couple of months ago that I got a call from a supermarket store manager saying that there's no crop because the people was massively bought all the crops and it needs more crops. So that wasn't the inventory was zero. Let's put it that way. So that was the only negative so far. And we are working hard not to get negative and to be positive and to create truly a farm that can produce high level produce in general.
So you're saying here that the demand for the products was greater than the production at the supermarket.
Right, because at the end of the day, when we are working with supermarket store, we are that's the type of flexibility that we're having. We are creating the mix of the crops versus the consumption of the store. So we're putting more basil versus persil. The mix is something that we're fitting to each the store within the same supermarket brand. Even for Israel in the south, the population like to eat more, I would say, persil versus in the center that there is consuming more basil, and that type of flexibility we are able to provide. And from time to time, there's gaps between consumption and production. And we're always happy to get this type of phone calls. It means that the consumer like it and he buy it. And we are always in the process of improving.
Okay, great. Joshua Edwards asks, when we purchase the containers, will there be training on how to set up the business effectively?
Sure. We provide the full training, the deployment, the maintaining of the technical support, and also the financial behind it.
Okay, great. And what about, this is Julianne, what about ground provisions? The Caribbean is very much into ground provisions. For most Caribbean islands, like they're asking, for example, bananas. Does the field, vertical field farming facilitate such?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
So in the Caribbean, we're talking about sweet potatoes, yams, edibles. And that because that's, you know, synonymous with staple foods in the Caribbean. So Julian is asking, what about ground provisions for most Caribbean islands? For example, bananas, and I just listed some others.
Yeah, understood. So, so the question if we can grow this type of vegetables, I guess, right? No. So at this point, no. As I mentioned, if it's under, I would say, the family of crops that have leaves, we are able to grow it, even if they are local. As long as they have actually fruit and actually vegetables out of that, that's still something that is under development.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So
From the agronomical part, it's something that we postpone it to later stage.
Okay. Dr.
So I
Thomas?
think it's great that we just go over again exactly what the system can grow, because what the system can grow is usually what we import from Miami. So so the fact that, I mean, what the system can grow is what we import from Miami means that it's
Dr. Thomas, if you're hearing us, I think your screen is stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Guy another question. Dawn Lovell says, in terms of the soil replenishment for crops that are not normally grown in a particular region, how often would that be done? And the logistics and the time span involved, like, for example, strawberries.
definitely.
Yeah, go ahead, Guy. But could you let Dr. Thomas know that his screen is stuck? Go ahead, Guy. He'll rejoin us.
So I guess the question was how frequent the consumable need to be provided to the farm, right?
Yes, I can read it again for you.
Sure. Yes, please.
Yes, in terms of the soil replenishment for crops that are not normally grown in a particular region, how often would that need to be done? And the logistics and time span involved, for example, of fruits such as strawberries.
So again, usually this logistic is not a burden in terms of providing the consumable behind it to the farm. Usually it's been every few weeks, and that's something that we do in different places, and we are able to provide training and explain how to do that.
Okay. And Arona Forbes asked, and she's from the British Virgin Islands, she asked, can this system be certified as organic for our region?
Yes, so let me say the following. We are in the process of getting the NOP organic certified from the US. So I guess in a couple of weeks we're going to have it, and that's something that definitely will be part of the system.
Okay. And Julian asked, is whether the entire kit is under warranty?
Yes, we have a 12 months warranty for the entire kit, everything included.
Okay. We've had the same question coming through all constantly. So they basically want to know, for example, your presentation or presentations will be available, digital brochures or other information that outlines the technical details, the costs, the benefits, and so on.
So what I suggest is that I'll make sure that Marianne has all the marketing and all the economic behind it, and you'll be able to share it, the entire package and the kit of brochures and presentation with whom wants to have it.
Okay. Kevin asked, is the soil, and he has an inverted commas there, soil media used similar to oasis or rock wool, or is it totally different? And that's technical terms. Yeah.
So the component, there are a few components in the soil, and this component can be reached anywhere.
Okay. And there's a question here which asks about seeds, if your organization supplies the seeds alone. And we are able, in certain cases, we're able to provide what I call consumable, but that's the seeds included in that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just let me Nick back over to the chat and see if any additional questions have been posed over that side. There's a question about the weight of the containers from Harlan Vanterpool. What sort of weight are the fully prepared containers?
The 40 feet weigh between 7 to 8 ton, and the 20, if I'm not mistaken, around 4.5 ton.
Okay. And excuse me, there's a question about GMO, but I believe you just answered that with the previous question with respect to whether these are non-GMO plants.
Right, it's a non-GMO seeds and non-GMO plants, right?
Okay. Question from Suzette Darville. In terms of the configuration of the containers, is there a place to package the items within the container, like from farm to store?
There is a small working space for the work. There's not enough a place to pack a significant amount of crops inside the container.
Okay. I believe that I have addressed, because some questions are similar in nature with respect to, like, for example, the seeds. So I believe that I have touched all of the questions. If you have posed a question and you believe it was not answered, now is the time to just add it there to the Q&A. And if not, I believe that I have addressed all of the questions that were posed. And Dr. Thomas, if you would want to continue making your point with respect to the question that was asked.
Yes. Okay, so what I wanted to really share is that I actually wanted Guy to go over the different types of crops that can be produced right now by the system. So it's very clear to everyone, okay, what's available. What's exciting about this from an agro-business point of view is that these are crops that the Caribbean imports. And because these are crops that the Caribbean imports, there's premium price on these crops. And therefore, it's a great business opportunity. And so if you could go over the specific areas that the system can grow.
Yes, I'm going to share the same slide for everybody to see. Just let's go, maybe not one by one, but just let's go on the main one. So under the herbs family, we have basil, parsley, rosemary, chives, conator, dill, and others. In the leafy green section, we have spinach, rucola, kale, beetroot, sorrel, and bok choy, and others. And under the lettuce, we have different types of lettuce. That's just an example of few of the crops. There are many, many, many others under each one of the families. And let's take bok choy, which is a Chinese crop, and that's not something that you find everywhere. And that's an example of how we adapt local crops to be grown in our container, in our farms. And we create a protocol for it. And that's an example of other potential local crops that they can be added as long as they consider to be one of these families.
Great, thank you. Bent Anthony is asking how much time per day is required for tending the actual system?
Not more than an hour and a half.
Okay. And Kevin Holder is asking, is the installation included with price of the containers, or can these be installed and commissioned by someone locally?
Definitely somebody locally can install that. There's no problem at all.
Okay. I believe, panelists, that I've addressed all of the questions that have been posed. I'm just
Jenny, let me thank you first of all for hosting this so well, and let me thank you also to Guy that was able to free more of his time and to be with us today. I'm so glad that we have this platform to share with the Caribbean every time that we have a new invention in Israel, a new technology. And I think one of the most important things that Guy was sharing today is the opportunity to grow almost everywhere, everything, everywhere, 365 days a year, with a very limited amount of water and resources, and really bring ability to bring a great taste and the aroma, the way you say that, of those wonderful greens, and bring a better health and food security to the region. So Guy, thank you very much for your time. And everyone who have more questions, you're invited to send to Deidre. And again, thank you for this wonderful platform of the Caribbean Israel Coalition to bring once again all of us together, although we are so far away from in terms of distance, but we are so close together, and those opportunity to collaborate together. So I'll wish you all thank you again, and have a great day. Here it's good night. And Andre, if you want to summarize and add more,
Sure.
please go ahead. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Mayan. Thank you so much. Well, we have shared with you the information. We believe it's an unprecedented opportunity because it definitely is an import substitution project. It's the type of project that the ministers of agriculture and prime ministers across the region have been asking for. The fact that you can grow these particular products that are grown more in the West, in America, in nations where it's colder climate, it's amazing for us. And so we are ready to work you through the journey. And Jennifer Highland would show you who to get in contact with. I believe she's put that information in the chat, so feel free to get in contact with us. We will be happy to work with you and see your vertical farm come into reality, and that will be exciting. Okay, thank you so much, and I hand over to Jennifer Highland, who would also let you know of another opportunity that we have. In fact, we found out today, okay, Mayan, that with the certification in smart farming, 950 people have already registered.
That's wonderful news. This is wonderful news, you know, to see the cycle and to see the continuation and how people are joining in. Wow, that's wonderful.
And so we had only planned for 1,000 scholarships, but we just had a conversation. So we are going to upscale it to 3,000.
Wow.
3,000.
Wow. This is wonderful news. This is such a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. So we can provide this. And one of the things that we will do to these 3,000 farmers when the course is finished, we will also present the vertical farms to them as well. Okay. Awesome.
That will be wonderful. That will be wonderful.
And if you could tell them exactly where to go to get in contact with Deidre Leacock, and also where to go to actually register for this program. Okay, sure. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Thomas. Yes, with respect to the certification, it's smart. Yes, where you can go is to our website, CaribbeanIsraelCoalition.org, and you can click on the events and you'll see the drop down there for the smart farming certification, and that will take you directly to the webinar information where you can find all the details on the certificate in smart farming being offered by Volcani International Partnerships, the Israeli-based R&D agri-tech organization. And you can also visit our Facebook page at Caribbean Israel Coalition, and you'll also see the information, the message from Dr. Thomas. There's also an interview done at Media Line in Israel with the COO, the Chief Operating Officer of the Volcani International Partnership, how this collaboration occurred, just to give you a background of how the partnership between Volcani International Partnerships and Caribbean Israel Leadership Coalition was formed for the support of our farmers, our agripreneurs, all stakeholders involving agriculture across the Caribbean, and how you can benefit and ensure that we are proactive in respect to what is coming down the pipeline. So again, you can go onto our Caribbean Israel coalition.org, our website, and you can, if you have not registered, you can go on and register. As you just heard, we have increased the capacity. The demand is great, and we understand why. So we are facilitating that process. And you register, and you'll get a confirmation. And that's starting on February the 24th. So you can go on and get all the information that you need. So thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be offering more opportunities like this, so you can continue to look at our events page for more opportunities that you can come on and benefit, whether it's training or opportunities such as the one that has been presented. Thank you so much, Guy, for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.